Good morning everyone, my name is Crystal and welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome old, welcome new. If you like my videos, please press the like button, please do subscribe. It's Saturday morning. The weather has got slightly colder and I'm here in my flat and yeah, it's flooding in Gloucestershire where I used to live. Flooding and people are being evacuated in Gloucester. I think I remember living up there a few times and seeing the floods, but it's quite bad this year. Flooding in Gloucestershire. Alexa, good morning.
Good morning. On this day in 1066, Harold Godwinson was crowned King of England. His reign was short-lived, thanks to William the Conqueror hopping over the Channel and, well, conquering.
Alexa, what's the time, please?
Good morning, Crystal. It's 8:56 a.m.
Alexa, what's the date today?
Today is Saturday the 6th of January.
Alexa, what's the weather like?
Currently, in Rochester it's 4 degrees Celsius with partly sunny skies. You can expect more of the same today, with a high of 6 degrees and a low of 0 degrees.
Alexa, whose birthday is it today?
Today's famous birthdays include Shalkal, British actor, comedian, and screenwriter Rowan Atkinson, British food writer, journalist, and broadcaster Nigella Lawson, American comedian and actress Kate McKinnon, and Russian model Irina Shayk.
Right guys, so we're into January yeah, New Year's resolutions, just trying to make 2024 different. I've already done something different, so I'm proud of myself. I've actually gone into someone's live stream live, showing my face, so that was good for me. So I want this year to be different. I'd like to, meet different people and make 2024 different than last year, put it that way. So my cat is now attacking anything that dangles. Harry, I keep putting this up and he keeps jumping now, jumping to reach it. You know, you've got like, stop it. He is actually jumping. I don't know what sort of cat he is, but my goodness, he is jumping. He's jumping to reach things. He's clinging on to things so you wouldn't think a cat could cling on to. It's after I feed him, he goes absolutely wild, darting up and down the room, and then he starts jumping. Like, I don't know what jumps really high. He's jumping. It's annoying, my elderly cat. I've got an older cat and telling carry off. Don't want none of that. Right. Anyway guys, so we're going back to last night. I was watching Top of the Pops 1971 with Tony Blackburn. I soaked my feet and there wasn't too much trouble at all. No. So I had a nice peaceful evening actually. Wasn't that bad. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I played a couple of games on my phone. Scrabble, fashion game. And then I just went to bed and apparently my mum's been getting up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. There was some activity around, I would say about 6:15 this morning, but I don't take any notice of it anymore. I just got the covers and I just got myself in a position where I just couldn't really hear anything, and I went off to sleep till about 8 o'clock this morning. I've made myself a lovely cup of coffee. My kitten is a handful. It reminds me of my cat that passed away before Christmas. It's got the same personality. When my white cat was a kitten, it used to be exactly like Harry, jumping everywhere, onto the table, everywhere, darting. It was the same personality, so it reminds me of my cat that I lost. It's cute, really. Not many plans for today, just taking it as it comes. Yeah, I am noticing a lot of celebrities and that pass away recently, which is quite upsetting, especially when you've been brought up with them, you know, and you realise that people don't live forever. You're here and then you're gone, and you can't say things to people when they're gone. So a lot of people do regret things when they lose somebody, because they say, oh, I should have said this, I should have done that. And so yeah, we are losing a lot of people that you wouldn't believe that would pass away as well. A lot of the elderly ones are going in about 90s, some of them are in their hundreds, and they've lived long lives anyway. But there are people that are going that are, you wouldn't think. We lost Lisa Marie Presley last January, I think, last year, and she was only 54. We've lost Chandler off of Friends, he was 54. So we're losing people that we shouldn't be losing. In a lot of cases it's drugs and drink. But, you know, people can just die suddenly, young. So, like I said, I've got no plans for today. It's a Saturday. I went to the co-op yesterday purposefully, so I didn't have to go in there this morning. Might have to go in there at some point to get dog and cat food, don't know. And we'll see what happens. Alexa, LBC Radio.
LBC London from Global Player.
Regarding the post office was a closure programme that was happening, which was very controversial, and I spent a lot of time in Parliament speaking in debates about that closure programme, and that was the focus.
And Alaska Airlines has grounded all its Boeing 737-9s hours after a window blew out on one of its planes in midair. It caused a gaping hole in the aircraft, causing oxygen masks to be released from the ceiling. The plane was forced to return to Portland International Airport, where it landed safely. No one was injured. LBC weather, a brighter day for many today with the odd shower, cloudier in eastern England and the far north of Scotland, and a high of 9 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Jenny Barsby.
Are you into worktops more than workouts? Kitchen islands more than tropical islands? Sounds like you've got a new kitchen on your mind. At Wix, we can design and install your dream kitchen. And now, there's up to 50% off units and up to 4 years interest-free credit on Wix Bespoke Kitchens. Be house proud with Wix. Terms and minimum spend apply. Wix is the credit broker. Credit provided by Laguna Personal Finance.
LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Paul Brand.
Good morning, it's Paul Brand here on LBC. Great to have your company this Saturday morning. Hope you're enjoying a great weekend and looking forward to lots of things to do this Saturday and Sunday. I'll be back with you tomorrow too, sitting in for Andrew Castle. Some strange comments this week by the chair of NatWest Bank, who said that it's not that difficult at the moment to get on the property ladder. He was talking about the state of the housing market and, of course, rising interest rates in the past 12, 18 months and the difficulty that that's led to for first-time buyers in particular. He said it's not that difficult to get on the ladder. He later clarified and said what he meant was not as difficult as it has been in recent months because interest rates, thankfully, are now on their way back down. But still, people have said he's completely out of touch as a chair of a bank who's supposed to, have some inkling of how his customers are feeling right now. It's completely out of touch for him to say it's not that difficult to get on the housing ladder. Is that true? Do you think it's out of touch? Or do you think it's accurate to say that actually things have slightly improved for home buyers and for people who hold mortgages in recent months? 0345 6060 973. I can tell you if someone's got a remortgage this year, it does look slightly better. And I'm lucky I'm in a privileged position of already being on the housing ladder. I know that. But you've got to cut in some slack, haven't you? It is slightly easier than it was, say, 6 months ago when it looked like interest rates were only moving in one direction. Is that what he meant? Are we sort of jumping on his comments and demonising the guy just for sort of pointing out the economic reality that in the past few months these things have eased up a little bit? Let me know what you think. You can text me as well, 84850. Let's talk to Ben Toomey now, who is Chief Executive of Generation Rent. Good morning to you, Ben.
Good morning, Paul.
Thanks so much for joining me. You were pretty upset, weren't you, by these comments yesterday? What did you make of them?
Yeah, it's really disappointing. I thought everyone knows that this country is in a housing crisis, and I dare to hope that people in power might be taking that seriously. So to hear those comments is really quite a slap in the face for particularly renters who have been facing soaring renting costs. So the idea of saving for a deposit is actually, unbelievably difficult at the moment, contrary to what Sir Howard has said.
And does he not just mean, though, that the current context is slightly better than it was in the kind of the middle of last year? He's clarified since and said that's what he meant, and he's not wrong about that, is he?
Well, I think if we're looking at the housing crisis in totality, I think we've got a real problem if we're going to just focus on the last couple of months. In the last 10 years, let's think about how the average house price has gone up by 72%. That's not fallen back 72% in the last few months. Average rents have gone up 29%. They've not fallen back at all. In fact, they're still rising at the moment. So he may have clarified the points. I'm glad he's rode back on his comments, but he did say as well that it didn't come across that way. He did seem to underplay us, and if we're lucky enough to do so. And so it's always going to be difficult. And he's just plain wrong if he's saying it's less difficult now than it has been historically.
It's true. And I think there's this generational divide as well, because I noticed in Sir Howard Davis' comments that he was talking about, you've always had to save up for a deposit. I think sometimes he's a member of the older generation. I think sometimes the older generation thinks that the younger generation just aren't trying hard enough to save. Do you get that vibe as well?
I do, and it's really frustrating because we're handing over basically a third of our wages on average as renters straight into the pockets of landlords. It's really difficult if we're pushing a boulder up a hill, I suppose, which is saving for a deposit, to then find that hill keeps getting steeper and steeper because more of our salaries, more of our hard-earned money is going straight into the pockets of landlords. So I don't know what more we're supposed to do in terms of being able to save for a deposit in those circumstances.
I mean, the classic trope is that younger people, go out and buy avocado on toast, and in my day we never bought coffee from a shop, we just made it at home. Is there any truth to that maybe younger people these days do spend more of their income on going out and about and doing those kind of things?
No, it's absolute nonsense. The thing that we would pay first and foremost is to pay to stay in our own homes. And people are more likely at the moment to have been made homeless than they are to have bought their first home last year. This is a desperate situation. We're in a cost of living crisis, and within that is a cost of renting crisis. So to talk about avocado, to think that distraction actually sells to people is just a complete nonsense, and it's really frustrating for anyone in a senior position that can have an effect on this to talk about that. We're most interested, though, not in Sir Howard, we're most interested in government, and they need to be the ones building homes in places where people need them and making sure that they're slamming the brakes on these soaring rents as well.
I was talking to Charlie Rowley earlier, who's I'm sure you know, is a former advisor to Michael Gove when he was Housing Secretary. Do you think, because he thinks it should be, do you think housing will become a key issue in the next election? Because despite the fact, and I agree with you, despite the fact that it is one of the most pressing issues across the country, it never really seems to feature in general election campaigns. We always sort of come back to the economy or immigration or the NHS, and housing is so rarely up there as a top 3 issue, yet for so many people it is one of their number 1 concerns.
Yes, I'm certain it'll be a major issue, and any party would do well to pay attention to the fact that there's 12 million private renters across England who will want, a better deal, basically, either to be able to buy their own home or to just make renting that little bit more attractive, where we're secure in our homes, we're not going to be evicted arbitrarily, where rents aren't rising to the point where we start to think about, can we pay our bills anymore, can we make other hard choices ourselves. All those things are factored in to renters' minds, and they're at the forefront of the media and the political conversation at the moment. So this is why I always thank journalists such as yourself for getting us on these shows at the moment, because it's putting on that pressure to government to say this is so broken at the moment, but it can be fixed and it must be fixed.
What would be a dream pledge for you then, for one of the parties to make ahead of the next election? If you could pick one policy that you think would drastically alter the housing market and the chances and the prospects for younger people to get on the housing ladder, what would be one dream policy to feature in a manifesto?
Well, the most important thing will be to build homes. So anything that promises and sets targets that will actually be delivered will be really welcome, because the more homes that we have where we can actually get people into homes will reduce the burden of homelessness. It will give people actual choice when it comes to where they're renting or where they want to buy, and it will hopefully bring down house prices as well for people. So that's top of the agenda. But in the meantime, we need to see the end of arbitrary evictions as well, because that's what's causing the biggest problems for renters at the moment.
Okay. Ben, thank you so much for your time this morning. That's Ben Toomey there, who is Chief Executive of Generation Rent, talking about the chair of NatWest Bank, suggesting that it is not too difficult to get on the housing ladder these days. I keep mentioning that he did clarify. I think we've got to be fair to the guy. He did clarify later and say what he meant was it's less difficult now than it was, say, 6 months ago, because interest rates are heading in a downward direction, or mortgage rates are heading in a downward direction, because we expect the Bank of England to cut interest rates over the coming year. But nevertheless, is it out of touch for the chair of a bank who dishes out mortgages and must know that people are struggling to get their deposits together to say that it's not too difficult to get on the housing ladder? If that's the attitude from people running banks, then what hope do Generation Rent, as they're described, have of getting on the housing ladder if even those people in charge of banks don't understand just how difficult it is these days? Was it inadvisable for the chair of NatWest Bank to suggest that it's not too difficult to get on the housing ladder? What's your experience right now? Let me know. 0345 6060 973. Let's talk to Ray, who's in Weybridge in Surrey. Good morning to you, Ray.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Happy New Year. I heard that on the news when the NatWest boss said, it's not very difficult to get a mortgage or whatever, and I just thought, Lord have mercy, what planet are these people on? I started work age 16. I bought my first home when I was age 18, and that was in the 80s. So I knew the different types of house ownership. Today, we have a situation here where 40 to 50-year-olds are living in the same room where they used to play with their toys and dolls because they can't get a mortgage. They're working people. They can't get a mortgage because they can't get a deposit. There's 2 reasons that's precluding people from getting a house or space called their own today. It's deposit and credit. Credit we can't do anything about. Deposit, though, the government has a responsibility to do something about, because what's going to happen here, sir, is in the next few years here, about 10, 15 years from now, we're going to have a time bomb that's going to explode. Because you're going to have people coming to the end of their retirement with no equity built in during their lives because they've been renting. They didn't save because the rent was high. And who's going to look after those people?
But it doesn't seem like the political parties are really doing anything that radical to address it, though. I mean, they've all got their house building targets and they will argue over how many houses they've actually built, but we've known this crisis was coming for decades, really, and nothing radical has happened. And maybe that's because the older generations who tend to go out and vote own their own property, so this never really becomes a salient issue in elections. In fact, one person's text in, Niall, who describes himself as an old duffer, says, get all young people to vote. They have the power in their hands. Best of luck, kids, he says. That's part of the problem, isn't it? The young people don't tend to vote in the same numbers as older people, so this is not going to be a salient issue for the political parties ahead of the election, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, we say young people, and there used to be young people, but like I say, I know lots of people now today who are in their 40s living at home with their parents.
That's true.
Yeah. So it's not young anymore. But here's the thing that I want to finally say. What you say, if you look at all the problems, there's one common theme around all the problems. Governments today are skewed towards big businesses. They're doing things in favor of big businesses as opposed to the individual citizens of the country. And that is a problem because they've got all the landlords out of the market, the majority of the landlords are coming out of the market because the things are punitive today. The kids can't get onto the housing ladder, but institutions are owning the properties and they're sitting on them.
Ray, thank you for your call this morning. What do you think of the chair of NatWest Bank saying that it is not too difficult to get on the housing ladder? 0345 6060 97.
Right, guys, I have never owned my own property, never. At one stage I probably could have, that was in the 1990s, early 2000s, but it doesn't pay, does it? Never owned my own place. My dad was fed up of renting from the council, and he moved from London to Chatham so that he could get a mortgage on a house in Victoria Road. And then when he got older, he ended up selling it anyway, going into housing accommodation. So I don't know myself. I think to own your own home, it costs a lot of money. You're responsible for your own repairs. So I mean, does it pay anyway? And the wages that people are getting are very low, and people are barely being able to afford anything after they've got their wages, after paying huge amounts of rent and their bills. The world is in a terrible state. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and it's getting worse. And the poor are getting poorer. It does not pay to work, does it? In some circumstances. And when celebrities make money, right? They make loads and loads of money, but to start with, they don't. But when their career takes off, they earn lots and lots of money, and you know, so-and-so's got a mansion, the Beckhams have got a mansion, haven't they? Right, but the good, honest people that would do really hard jobs, including cleaners, you know, people like builders, bin men, people that work in shops that provide us with a service, they get very low paid wages and they barely support their families. They're struggling to put food on the table, right? You know, instead of overpaying celebrity people, why can't we give the people that serve us, take care of us, more money so that they can feed their families, and maybe they would be able to buy their own homes? It's wrong. Also, celebrities get paid for something they enjoy, don't they? They enjoy acting, they enjoy dancing, they enjoy doing what they're doing. But the common member of the public has to get a low-paid job, right? And they do a good job, they do, but they get paid shit wages. I mean, it's not rocket science, is it? How to change things. Right, I'll see you later, guys.